Hey there! Thanks for coming along on today's adventure. The forecast has called for rain all weekend long. We've had a very wet season so far. My garden is absolutely loving it though. I trimmed these rose bushes rather aggressively back in February, and they have just exploded since then. But for us, well, we'll leave the rain for the plants. Let's work inside today. Grab your most aggressively positive mug, pour yourself a nice hot cup of tea, maybe find a warm blanket, and you can work alongside me today if you'd like. I did a bit of prep work beforehand. I made sure that all my perspective was planned out. I found a picture that I want to draw from. It is a photograph of Cape Mirez, which I have been to in person, so it doesn't feel quite as cheating. I'm still counting this as an urban sketch, even though I'm indoors working from a photograph. But if the Urban Sketching Foundation wants to come after me, that is their right to do so. If you've ever been to Cape Mirez, you'll know that this photograph was taken from a viewpoint that stands on a cliff just above the lighthouse. There is a little trail that you can walk down to get to the base of the lighthouse, but this is probably the most impressive shot of it that you'll be able to get to take. It's a rather short lighthouse. At just 38 feet high, it is the shortest on the Oregon coast. The lighthouse was built in 1889 and began operating the following year. That workshop that I'm working on the roof of right now was built back in 1895, but had to be rebuilt again in 1978. The lens of the lighthouse is called a Fresnel lens. It was made in Paris, France. It came to us around Cape Horn and up the coast, then hauled 217 feet up the cliff by a wooden crane that was built from local timbers native to the area. It would be weird if they built it from other wood, shipped in from elsewhere, but it is what it is. It's an 8-sided lens with 4 primary lenses and 4 bullseye lenses with red panels covering the bullseye lenses. It produces about 30 seconds of fixed white light from the primary lens, followed by a red flash of 5 seconds from the bullseye lens once every minute. So there are your lighthouse facts as we go through the inking of this painting. Now, we should probably talk about the title of the video. It is referencing a failure of some sort, and we have yet to get to that up to this point. Well, now we're seeing the first little bits of it. I realize that I had drawn this circle all the way around, and it can be seen through the bulb when that was unintended. So I tried my best to fix it with a white gel pen, and that is pretty much an omen of how the rest of the video goes. But we'll get to that in just a little bit. With the inking done, I can transition over to the watercolor part of this piece. So I'll flatten out my Draftsman desk, select a few round brushes that I'd like to work with, and we'll get started with the watercolor. If I could sum up what went wrong with this video, I would say that it was a lack of focus, or a lack of planning, a lack of direction, something along those lines. But I think all of that was caused by just fatigue. I've been working really hard the last couple of weeks, and I tried to tackle this ambitious project while I was tired. I wasn't fresh, I wasn't capable, I didn't have the energy to go at something new like this. I've never painted a sunset in watercolor before, so this was a brand new ask that I was giving myself, and I wasn't being very aware of my needs and what I could accomplish at this time, and I just ignored all of that and pushed forward anyways. And that by itself is not necessarily a bad thing. There will be times in our lives where we're tired, but we're also excited and we want to try and take on projects. I don't regret attempting this piece at all, and I don't want it to come across that way. I'm just trying to paint a picture of where I was at mentally when I tackled this, to help explain what exactly happened, so that hopefully we can all learn together from my failure. So far, at this point, I'm still pretty happy with the watercolors. You can see that there was a real lack of focus and attention when I did the inking for the clouds. I kind of just threw some scribbles down. I didn't really plan it out very well. But still, the way they are right now with just the blue sky and the clouds, I kind of like it. If I had stopped at this point, I probably would have been pretty happy with this piece. But I really wanted to capture the bright red of that cool bulb that we were talking about earlier. In real life, it just looks like a cool solid red Christmas tree ornament almost. So at this point, I'm still feeling pretty good about this piece. I'm comfortable with where I'm at with it, and I'm thinking, okay, I'll let it dry, and then I'll get ready to tackle the sunset portion of it. So I set everything down for a little bit, and I went to go find Noodle so that we could hang out together. I opened the back door so that she could sniff some fresh air, and just kind of hung out and watched the rain while everything dried. Noodle giving a big stretch. It's a good reminder to stretch out while you're working on a piece like this. Take breaks and take care of your physical health. So now I'm feeling invigorated. I've had my stretch with Noodle, and I'm ready to tackle the bright red of the bulb and the bright red of the sunset that is happening in the photograph I'm referencing. But again, I didn't really plan this out very well. I just kind of mixed a color that I thought was close enough, didn't bother to swatch it, and just started throwing it on my paper without really a care in the world. And the results reflect that. The results show a muddied, kind of out of focus image that I wasn't super happy with for the end result. So the sunset sky is the part of this piece that I'm labeling as a failure. There are portions of it that I really do like. As you saw earlier, I did take some time to plan out the draftsman problems of this piece. I had done a separate sketch to figure out all the perspective of the lighthouse. I like the way that the lighthouse is sitting inside of 3D space, and I've been trying to experiment with like a John Harrison style of painting where you leave certain elements pure white as a way of drawing focus to them. So for all those parts of the piece, I'm still really happy with them. It's just this sunset sky that didn't quite get to where I wanted it to be. And as you can see, it just continues to get worse over time. As I get frustrated and start to realize that it's not working out, I didn't just... I think I had it in my head that I was just going to effortlessly paint some sunset that I've never painted before, that I was just going to somehow acquire this skill magically without any kind of effort on my part. And that was, of course, an unrealistic expectation. I should have known that going in. I didn't consider it. I just kind of hoped it would all work out. So at this point, I know it's not going to work out, and I'm trying to think of ways I can salvage it and still be able to post a video this week. So my first thought was to start over, get a fresh sheet of paper, try it again. But as I mentioned earlier, I was still feeling really exhausted. And I knew that if I had done that, started over, I would have been asking too much of myself and pushing myself closer to a burnout stage that I didn't want to be in. So I'm thinking, well, all the advice online says that you should only put your best foot forward when it comes to growing a brand new social media account. This YouTube channel is still in its infancy. I can't post a failure. That would hurt my chances of growth, I guess. And then I realized how incredibly hypocritical that was. My video last week was about dealing with failure and how failure is okay and it's not something to beat yourself up over. It's not tied to your self-worth. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's something to be excited about, because guess what I'm going to do when I'm feeling better? I'm going to go learn how to draw a watercolor sunset, and that's going to be awesome, and it's going to be a hurdle that I came up against, and I'm going to get over it, and I shouldn't be embarrassed by that. So for full transparency's sake, and to make sure that I'm not a hypocrite, I wanted to post this failure to show how I came up to it, how I went through it, and what I'm doing with it now. Just so that you guys can see that failures are not the end. They are not to be ashamed of. They are a natural, normal part of the art making process, and I think we should normalize them more. So here's my first attempt at that. Here's my failure for the whole world to see. I'm not going to make it again. I'm not going to fix it. I'm just putting it out there, and let's talk about it. I'd love to hear some of your stories. I'd love for you to share some of your failures. So please, in the comments, let's share our failures together. Let's talk about them. Let's normalize them. Let's bring them to light so that we can start to get past that shame and start to get after that progress that they so often lead to. But I'll leave it there for today. Thank you so much for joining me on another adventure and for hanging out indoors on this cozy rainy day. I'm gonna go get some rest, and I'm gonna take care of myself. And I hope that you take care of yourselves as well. We'll see you next time. We got some choppy sands coming up.